a guide to the major Ascension symptoms. I remember 75 years ago when they first happened to me. I collapsed on the floor with no energy to lift myself up. I was feeling very, very nauseous, and at first I thought I had been poisoned. But a voice within me told me that it was all right, that this was something new and it was the beginning of something big. And so I trusted that voice and went with it. So for 3 days I spent my time on the bed or on the floor, feeling sick as a dog and having no real answer to what was happening. And so, since then, of course, there have been many other symptoms and many other experiences that I have gone through bodily. And I know that you each have gone through a great deal over the past years. The symptoms all have their place and all have a meaning. And I'd like to just look at them and understand them a little through separating them into physical, emotional, mental, and multidimensional symptoms to help get some ease of understanding. So we have the physical symptoms, and there are so many symptoms, but I'm just looking at some of the major ones that are currently being reported and experienced. Heart pain and palpitations are probably one of the scariest because of all the fear-mongering that's been done in our society over heart attack and stroke. But the signs are clear because you really feel it strongly in the heart, the palpitations, and there may be even chest pains. And we can easily get checks for these, but they are very common, and they're very common with people who have no indication of heart attack, although they may have temporary or for a short time high blood pressure. There's overall pain in the body and frequent little pains, really sharp pains like needles and nerve pains that we get at random around the body. But the physical effect that affects most of us and is more prolonged is bouts of extreme fatigue. This fatigue comes from the fact that the body is having to make a change and deal with the new energies coming in. And there is a great deal of energy required to make the transformations that are going on in the body. And so fatigue is very commonplace and very understandable. Another common physical symptom is the gritty eyes and blurred vision. Blurred vision concerns people a great deal, but the blurred vision is related to the change in our sight because we are now beginning to see beyond the veil, and the way the eye and the lens works, and the way we process vision is changing dramatically. Another one that's very common at the moment in people is the humming or ringing in the ears. I like to say, although for people when they're experiencing it, it doesn't feel that good, that it's actually the new sound that's coming from you and the new sound that's coming from your field. And it affects the nerves in the brain, and the electronics, the electrical changes are creating a hum and ringing, which you will feel for some time as the changes are being made. It can last for days and even weeks, but if you listen to it rather than try to shut it out and get rid of it, it seems to subside quicker. But it's temporary. We'll move to the mental symptoms, and the one that's most common and we've most talked about is the memory loss. Your memory loss for simple things. It's usually short-term memory. That is, within the last day or even hour, not being able to access your memory. And even immediately not being able to access words, losing words. You know that they're there, but you can't retrieve them. And if you leave it and not endeavour and fight to get it back, it'll come maybe an hour later. You'll get access to it, but you don't have the access immediately. There are significant changes happening in our memory as we drop so much of what we no longer need. The no mind is, I find, quite amusing. I have found it quite amusing. It's where you have a total inability to focus any thought. You can't remember what you thought a second ago. I had days many years ago where I had no mind, and I used to practice with crossword puzzles trying to focus my mind. I'd get a question and I'd go to answer it with a word to put in a crossword, and I forgot the question immediately. It was quite amusing, really. But the amazing thing is, when you need it, you can retrieve it. It doesn't seem to affect, crucially, how we function in our daily life. There's difficulty remembering what you did, or who you talked to a day before, or even just an hour before. You're doing something in a room, you're called away, or you go to another room, and then you can't remember what you were doing previously. And it might be sometime later you go back into where you were doing something and see it there in front of you. Oh yes, that's what I was doing. Very common. Not remembering the meaning of anything. This can be disturbing when this first happens to you. It's like you've lost your sense, your common sense, with regard, because you don't understand why things are where they are, where they've been all your life. the feeling that you're going insane or must be developing a mental illness probably doesn't affect any of you anymore, but it's certainly one that is commonly reported now because of these changes that are happening. And another one is you absolutely cannot do certain things anymore. When you try to do your usual routine and activities, it feels awful. It makes you feel awful. It's like you're totally out of place. And your plans suddenly change in midstream and go in a completely different direction. This is the transition between mental mind and higher mind. Higher mind, you have a higher purpose, and a lot of the things that were trivial and were routine no longer fit into the choices that are in your best interest. And so there is this hiatus between what you used to do and what you are to do now. Now, some of the emotional symptoms. A major, and one that I'm coming across a lot from people on the Facebook alone, is depression. Not everyone experiences a deep depression, but I think most of you have had some period in depression. It's probably amongst the top in terms of widespread. And what happens is the Ascension process purges so much of the darker and denser energies from us that we find ourselves in them for quite some time. We may feel like things are very simple, never going to get better. And to add insult to injury, the outer world is no longer in alignment with the new, higher vibrating you. It doesn't feel so good out there, and it might feel like there is nowhere to go that does feel good. Therefore, everything around us feels just plain, ugly, and yucky. And in addition, when we're vibrating higher and have to wait for the outside to manifest itself in a higher way of being, it can seem like it's taking forever. Feeling let down and like things will never change are so very common in this feeling. This is a long process, this ascension. An upside-down reality world and human are both having to turn right side out. The world and human beings are having to turn the right side up. So it's a complete reversal. There is a jewel in the length of the process, though, and a necessary and perfectly intended byproduct. We cannot create from ego anymore. We have to get to a place where we are okay, no matter what is going on. This is what a lot of what we will do as we go on in this course. Feeling disappointed for what seems like forever eventually makes us realize that we will never get anything that we cannot live without. When we learn to detach and release all attachments, we always get precisely what we want. It is like magic, and a very keen part of the Ascension process to let go of all attachments. When we arrive in this place, we are truly in heaven, as nothing can affect us here, and we also get whatever we desire, even though we desire nothing. This is a true symptom of arriving, and you can only feel total peace from this point on. So having gone through the depression, you can feel a sigh. The next, if you have more depression, it will be far, far less, because you've travelled far. Anxiety, panic, and feeling of hysteria, these also are symptoms of the stress arising. The stress that has been accumulated over centuries, not just over this lifetime, are arising as the emotions are becoming freed and unblocked. Experiencing emotional ups and downs, the joy and deep love to the sadness and uncontrollable weeping. Well, I think all of you know that. And it still comes. Most of us can cry at the drop of a hat at something happy and something sad. And there are symptoms that involve both emotional and mental components. There's obviously all of us from time to time are experiencing an intolerance for lower vibrational things of the 3D. It's reflected in conversations and attitudes of people, societal structures, healing modalities and so on. They literally make you feel sick inside if you're exposed to them for too long. Furthermore, there are times when you don't feel like doing anything. It's like it's more than you've lost motivation. There is no motivation to do anything, and no inclination, even the things you normally like and you know you like. There are times when you feel like there's no impulse to want to do them. There's this feeling of wanting to go home, as if everything is over and you don't belong here anymore. Well, we've had this from a young age, and it comes again as we're breaking into and through the pain of feeling an outsider. There's sudden disappearance of friends and activities, habits, jobs and residences. This has happened to each of us and continues to happen as we move more into the fifth and higher dimensions. The 3D retreats, and thus people and things, activities, habits and jobs and places need to change for us to be in a place where we can vibrate at our higher level. It's not that there's anything necessarily wrong with any of those things, it's just that they're vibrating at a different frequency, or we are vibrating at a different frequency, and thus we need new matches to our vibration. There's heightened sensitivity to your surroundings that you can quickly find that a place can feel quite good and happy, and then suddenly you've had enough, and you become hypersensitive to the surroundings and need to move. You have created a situation. This is quite. I've seen this happen quite often, where people have created a situation that seems like their worst nightmare, with many of the worst nightmare aspects to it. It's like this especially happens when we haven't listened, or we've heard the push from within and the prods from within, but we put them aside and not listened. And what happens is, most frequently, it happens that you begin to lose things. You lose a friend, you lose a family member, you lose your job, and if we've held on against listening to our truth for a long time, this can happen in quick succession. If we don't move, in other words, in relation to our inner prompting, something is taken away. However, the good part is that when something is taken away, and you have taken your truth, and now are faced in the direction of the truth of you, then as things are taken away, something else is put in its place that is better than you could have hoped for. In the multidimensional symptoms, a lot of our change and our multidimensional capacities are strongly associated with our sleeping. Sleeping has been the time all your life, of course, where you have switched off from the mental processes, and you've gone and been in other realms with experiencing the other aspects of who you are that you're not aware of in your conscious state, in your daily conscious waking state. And now sleep is not just a time for rest and healing, it is a time for travelling, and there is a drop-off effect of sleep into your waking life. And thus you're finding that you need a lot more sleep at times, and there are other times when you need hardly any. But sleep is becoming a much more dynamic part of your life. And we'll look at that further in the course as we go along. You can have vivid and wild and violent dreams, and also beautiful and prophetic dreams. And these display and indicate the variety of timelines that you're processing and living through in your sleep, and there's a seeping over into your daily waking state, and this will increase. What also increases is this feeling of disorientation, of not knowing where you are, and a sense of loss of place. As your sleep becomes richer and your awareness of what you're doing in your sleep becomes richer, it seeps over into your life And so we have this period of what's called the lucid dreaming, where you can actually create in your dreams. And things become very, very clear and bright. That this lucid dream state is now seeping over into your daily state. So it's so often you're experiencing periods in your day where it's like you're in a dream. The 3D reality is a dream and you're looking at it from another place. Lucid dreaming in the waking state. And this kind of carryover is going to increase as we get more and more in tune with our multidimensionality. The feeling of out of your body has been very common, but primarily that's because people are out of alignment with themselves. Ascension is essentially coming into your body, and so any feeling of out of alignment from the body is really a feeling of out of balance, but it's a necessary part as we gradually own the fact that we're here and we've chosen to be here in the fullness of what that entails and what it means. You see and hear things. We're getting new sights, seeing new things in nature, having other senses come on board. One common thing that is an illustration of this is seeing the shadow people. Have you seen, the movement like there's a person in your peripheral vision, and usually it's black like a shadow. You have no details. This is shifting timelines and dimensions. That's another dimension that you're becoming aware of people who are going out about their business. They don't know you, they don't notice you, but you are seeing beyond the veil into those other dimensions. The feeling as though you are looking down a long tunnel in order to connect to lower vibrations, feeling as though you are acting or pretending. This is very much the lucid dream type of experience where you're here on earth, but you have one foot somewhere else, and you're neither in one place nor the other. And the three dimensions, the 3D that you once knew as solid, is no longer as real as it used to be. So I've just covered some of the major things that you're all familiar with, all experienced, and will continue to experience, because these energies are not going to let up. They're going to continue on and sometimes increase, and we will just get used to it, and new capacities and new understandings and new experiences will come to it. So it's about relaxing into it, really, much more. And some of the ways you can make things easier is I always maintain, and it's been good for me and good for others I've shared and encouraged, to first of all, when something happens, when you're experiencing something and you don't know what it is, go to your heart. Bring your love as master. Bring your love to that place, to that experience, and know that you are love, and bringing that love to it. Go within first. Don't panic. That's old. You see, Ascension symptoms, there's no such thing as disease or virus or accident. Everything, but everything that happens to you is in divine timing and divine placement. So there's absolutely no way that you won't be okay. So when something comes up and we get these doubts or feelings of what's up, what's wrong, I think having a little routine, a few sentences or words to remind you of who you are, first and foremost, to remind you what you're connected to, and remind you a self-talk routine that reminds you that you're connected to all that is, and that the universe is the great benefactor, and that your ascension path, your individualized ascension path, is divinely guided and worked out for you. You chose it, and you're in good hands. Thirdly, to release, let go, and allow and trust. We know all these things, but to allow the experience to be as it is, and experience it without the labels. So the heart's pounding, so you're finding it hard to breathe. So you breathe. Number 4, keep calm and breathe. Take more breath in and keep breathing. And after a while, one of the common symptoms I experience is being not having enough air, being able to breathe, but not having enough air. And I know that is a feeling. And so I just keep breathing, taking bigger amounts of air. And it subsides after a while. But it would be very easy to go into panic if I put my mind to it. You listen to your body. As next, you first of all go within to your heart and to your knowing. Then you listen to your body. These things are happening to your body. They're happening for a good reason. The body is allowing something to come out into physicality so it can be released. So what's it saying? And what does it need? If you know kinesthesia, muscle testing, using the pendulum, you can always test and ask your body what it wants and what it intends. Listening to our body is extremely important, because we have an intelligence which is not spoken about. There is innate intelligence. It is an intelligence that the body has in the field. It's what we call instinct. But instinct is divinely guided. And the natural blueprint for our body is health, longevity, is constant and complete replication of every cell. There should be no need for any aging. There is no disease, because the body can deal with most things that come to it. So there's a new message to come. And the new message comes from you. It's in your love and your trust and your allowance for the body, for your mind and for your emotions, to have your loving presence. For the first time in aeons, we're ascending, body and being as one. And there are simple things you can do, of course. Always drink plenty of water. And be in nature every day. Touch the grass, the land. Hug a tree. Nature gives to your body in very immediate ways. And that can be enough, probably 9 times out of 10. Water and earth and air and the fire of your love. And for detox and cleansing, Epsom salts in the bath is always good, and always a spiritual shower. What I call a spiritual shower is a shower where you are consciously aware of the water and the blessing of the water. Allow it to bless you and bless it as it falls on your body and bless your body. A spiritual shower, a shower where you give to yourself and to your body. And if in your ascension you go for help or advice because you are freaked out or you do want some confirmation, get your second opinion. But make sure it is your second opinion. It's not instead of your opinion. You are the master of you. And we never give our power away to anyone again. I hope this has been useful. There's much we can share, and from time to time there are many useful things that you learn along the way and you can help others with. But I remember saying years ago, I came across when someone asked the Buddha, is the road uphill? And Buddha said, yes, to the very end. He didn't mean it was tough. He meant that there's always work to do, play to engage in, and there is never an end to expansion. And this is what we're doing. We're expanding. And so these mental, emotional, physical, and multidimensional experiences that we're moving into are part of this expansion. And it isn't all hard graft, because underneath it all there is this shine, this love, this smile, and this peace that passeth all understanding. And so it is.